Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, rocking the D-Book shirt today for today's video because we're going to talk about the Phoenix Suns. This is a team that right now is on a tear. They're on another really big winning streak, and right now, to me, the Phoenix Suns are in a tier of their own. When I look at the NBA landscape right now today, if I had to pick any team to win a 7-game series, the Phoenix Suns are way at the top of that list for me. The way that they're playing as a team, their star power, and their ability to really just shuffle anyone in and still be super productive, that combination makes them, to me, very unique in the current NBA landscape. Let's talk about kind of what makes them so good. So, we look at the Phoenix Suns. Right now, they're 39-9, and I don't remember who said it, but there's someone that said one time that to be a championship team, you have to hit 40 wins before you hit 20 losses. The Suns are about to hit 40 wins before they hit 10 losses, assuming they win their next game, which is amazing. They're on pace to go 66-16, and they started 1-3. So they're 38-6 in their last 14 games, which is ridiculous. And not only that, but their third best player, DeAndre Ayton, who was a big piece of their team last season and during their playoff run, he's missed 20 out of 48 games. So he's missed almost half their games so far this season, and yet they're still this good. So why are they so good? Let's start with, of course, I think there are two players that they're at kind of the top of the totem pole when we look at the Phoenix Suns. Those are D-Book and Chris Paul. Those two are their best players. You can argue in the comment section below all you want who is the best player. I'm not going to argue that because I think they're both great in their own ways and they contribute to this team in so many different ways. Let's start with Devin Booker. This is the best Devin Booker's ever been. His stats might not look like it because he's averaging his lowest points per game, 25.1 since 2017-2018, only 4.5 assists, which is the lowest since 2016-17, but he's shooting his second best mark from 3 in his career. He's averaging under 3 turnovers for the first time since his rookie season, and the biggest thing for him is his defense. Devin Booker's went from a guy who for a while was seen as a negative defender. You looked at him and you were like, oh, the other team's going to target him and try and pick on him, to a genuinely, I would say, good defender. The way that Devin Booker's been playing this season, the way that he's been hustling his butt off on the defensive end, he's averaging a career high in steals, blocks, and if you just watch him play, the way that he's fighting around screens, he's diving for loose balls, he very clearly, when they got to the finals, he's like, this is amazing. I want to be back there. And not only that, but I want to win. I want to get the first seed. I don't want to be the second seed this time. And I want to be the team that is raising that trophy at the end of the season. It's clear how hungry he is to win basketball games. He spent the offseason getting better, getting stronger, working out in the gym, and especially tightening up on the defensive end. I'm not saying he was a terrible defender last season, but it's noticeably this is the best he's ever been defensively. You look at them last season. Last season, the Suns were ranked 10th in defense, which is pretty good. To be a top 10 defense in the NBA, it's really tough, especially because they don't really have like that defensive player of the year caliber player that a lot of the top defending teams usually have. For example, Draymond Green on the Golden State Warriors, they're the best defensive team right now this season, and they've got a defensive player of the year caliber guy in Draymond Green. It's typically what you see towards the top. But right now, they're the second-ranked defense in the NBA, despite missing, as I mentioned before, DeAndre Ayton for a lot of their games. He's their big rim protector. So even without him, they're still locking up defensively. And a lot of that comes from like Mikal Bridges. Chris Paul's always been a good defender. But the way that Devin Booker has stepped up defensively is a big part of that improvement for them defensively. So Devin Booker is his usual guy. He's getting you buckets. He's being a super efficient clutch time player. He's diming up guys. He's crossing over. He's doing everything you need him to do offensively, and now he's doing it on the defensive end as well, and that's huge for this Suns team. We look at Chris Paul. Chris Paul's a wizard. Chris Paul does, and I don't mean Washington wizard because what they're doing over there is not great right now, but he's just a wizard on the basketball court. His stats don't really pop off the page to you, but that's kind of always been the case with Chris Paul, especially recently. He's averaging 14.7 points per game, 10.2 assists, which is league leading and the most he's averaged since 2014 with the Los Angeles Clippers, almost 2 steals. He's efficient, and he continues to make his teammates better. That's always been the big thing with Chris Paul, is his ability to mold his game and make his teammates better in however they need him. Being a center that plays alongside Chris Paul might be the best job of all time. Like, there may not be any job. If I could go back in time and like change who I was, like I could make myself a little bit taller and stuff like that, my dream goal would be to make myself a 7-footer and just do whatever I can to go be a center that plays with Chris Paul, because you get bags and you get to play well. You play alongside this guy that's just going to set you up for lobs all the time, make money doing it. It's like a dream job. With DeAndre Ayton missing 20 games this season, including DeAndre Ayton, the Suns have started 4 different centers, and every one of them is having a great season. You know about DeAndre Ayton, but JaVale McGee is averaging 10 and 7.1 rebounds. Jalen Smith, who really hasn't played so far in his young career because of having DeAndre Ayton, and the Suns' sudden rise to being contenders, kind of took away some of his playing time, but he's been a big piece for them. He's averaging 7 and 5.5 rebounds, and Bismack Biyombo was brought in as a replacement player, and he's averaging 11.2 points per game and 7.8 rebounds. You know what his previous career high was in points? 7.4. He's 4 points up from his career high playing with Chris Paul. He's making all of these guys so much better. They're all playing such good basketball. Even Frank Kaminsky is averaging over 10 points per game for only the second time in his career. So playing alongside Chris Paul as a big man especially, you just get so many easy lobs, you get because he demands so much attention, especially in that mid-range. So when he gets out to the mid-range, if he gets a big guy, the big guy's got to step up out on him. And so you just get lobs, you get free dunks at the dunker spot. You just get such easy plays, especially in a pick and roll with him. And I mean, shout out to all those guys in their own right. They're all playing great basketball themselves. But the way that Chris Paul sets them up and it makes everyone around him better is so fun to watch. And I feel like it's something that you might not even truly appreciate until you watch him on your team. Watching him as a fan of the Thunder, it's so clear how great Chris Paul is. And of course, the biggest thing for him that a lot of people kind of recognize is how good he is in the clutch. He's shooting 56.3% from the field in clutch time. That's insane. That's a ridiculous percentage to make. It feels like he never misses a mid-range jumper, and he turns it up completely whenever his team needs him. The last couple games, teams have really come storming back, and he's completely turned it up. In the last few games, it's like, oh my gosh, are the Suns going to choke? Because that's not something we typically see them do. But over the last 3 games, he's averaging 23 points per game, 7.3 rebounds, and 10.7 assists on 54% from the field, 64.3% from 3. He's not a scorer. He's not a guy you typically see as a go-to scorer. But because his team was kind of needing him, Chris Paul at any moment can just go, okay, I'm going to take over. And just start scoring from the mid-range, getting by guys, shooting threes, whatever you need him to do, Chris Paul can do that. And that is part of why he's so amazing. He's like a chameleon, the way he can change his game in so many different scenarios, and it's how he's managed to stay so good despite being pretty old now, 36, I think. It's super impressive how he can change or elevate his game in whatever situation you need. And that dynamic backcourt of Devin Booker and Chris Paul, the way that they played together as well, is so amazing to watch, especially in crunch time, because they trust the hell out of each other. Last year's run that they went on, it showed them that, wow, this can really, really work. They're both bought in. And the way that Chris Paul takes over in clutch time, and if they're starting to double him or they're really committing to guarding his mid-range or something, Devin Booker steps up in a big way. Devin Booker hits the craziest, most contested mid-range jumpers, and somehow they go in. The second this team gets to clutch time, I just assume they're going to win. Like, if this team doesn't get blown out, I assume they're going to win. And blowouts don't happen very often with such a good team. We look beyond those two guys. They're role players. Mikal Bridges is a lockdown defender. And if I had to build like my perfect role player, like if I couldn't make like a star, I was capped at a certain number of like attribute points, like I'm making a 2K my player, Mikal Bridges is like the perfect role player that I would build. He is a great all defensive caliber defender. He hits threes. He makes the right passes. He can do basically whatever you need him to do. He's similar to Chris Paul in that facet where he can kind of just change his game. He's like, okay, you need me to lock up the opposing team's best player? Sure. You need me to stand in the corner? Sure. You need me to cut to the basket? Yeah, sure, I can do that. Whatever you need him to do, he is a perfect role player. He does whatever is asked of him. Jay Crowder has proven to be a winning role player. Cam Johnson, as a good shooter at the 4, he fits in really well. And Jay Crowder's missed some time here and there, so Cam Johnson has stepped up in a big way. The centers that I mentioned, Cameron Payne, who's had a crazy season last year and is having a good season again this year. Whatever they need to do, guys step up and do it. And that's part of kind of what I think is so special about this Suns team. Even if they're missing guys, even if guys are struggling, they step up in such a big way. That's kind of one of the key components to me of a championship team. A championship team can go out and get a win with that while they're missing one of their best players. That's kind of the way it works. Like, the Bucks can go out and get a win despite missing Giannis. They can do that. Even though Giannis is incredible, they can still go and get that win. The Nets, they can go get wins without Kevin Durant, without Kyrie Irving. They were doing it most of the season. Even if they don't win as much, you can still go out and get big wins without those guys. That's one of the things with a championship team. And missing DeAndre Ayton a lot of this season, missing Devin Booker some games here and there, they didn't miss a beat. Even though they were missing Devin Booker, they were playing the Warriors, and Chris Paul steps up in a big way. It's what this team does. And part of that, I think, speaks to Monty Williams as one of the best coaches in the NBA. The ability to have players ready to go if another guy goes down, if one of your stars goes out, you go, okay, this is what I want you to do, go do it. And the player's like, yeah, sure, 100% I can do that. He has them prepared for any situation, and it shows in crunch time. One of the biggest things to me that kind of shows how good a coach is how that team performs in crunch time. If they're always blowing leads, if they're unable to execute, it's kind of a problem. Less so maybe for like younger teams, because that's kind of just the way it works, or less talented teams. But for a talented team like this, they should be executing, and they always do. I know Bucks fans are probably going to bring up the finals, whatever. But this season specifically, they are always executing in those late game scenarios. Whether it's a 5-point game, a 2-point game, they're down by 5. They're going to execute and find the way to get themselves the win way more often than they don't. And that's, I think, indicative of how great Monty Williams is. It always feels like they're locked in, they're executing, no one ever seems out of it, no one ever seems like they're kind of just like sleepwalking on the court. Everyone is completely engaged, and they're always executing perfectly. And then we look at maybe they can go out in the trade deadline and add even more pieces. For me personally, I think a great piece for them as a Thunder fan who's biased, Kenrich Williams is a great piece that they could go out and get. Another wing player who can play defense, hit threes, just another great role player. I think he would be perfect for them. Maybe go out and get another ball handler, but I just think Kenrich Williams or like just some kind of wing, that it would like solidify them to me as this team on the tier of their own. And I know there are teams like the Golden State Warriors, but they're dealing with some injuries, and Steph's up and down. You look at the Brooklyn Nets, Kevin Durant is out with time. What's happening with Kyrie being a part-time player? The Milwaukee Bucks have dealt with some injuries. Are they going to be able to get healthy? So you look at all these different teams that I think are also championship contenders, that none of them are as consistent right now as the Phoenix Suns. If I've got to choose today, one team to win the NBA Finals, I'm picking the Phoenix Suns, 100%. 100 times out of 100 times if you ask me. Sure, there's a great chance they don't win because it's the NBA. Things are so unpredictable. But as of right now, as of today, I think the Phoenix Suns are on a tier of their own. You can disagree with me. That's fine. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about all this. I appreciate y'all watching. Let me know if you think the Suns are a championship contender. Well, I mean, obviously they're a contender. If you think that they're the championship favorite right now, I appreciate y'all watching. I will see you all later. Real one, say it back.